Most school leaders think they're the chief problem solver, but what if that mindset is actually what's breaking your school? When you're the go-to for every issue, every fire, every complaint, every question, you're not leading, you're enabling dependence. Today's conversation with my buddy Mitch Weathers flips that narrative on its head. We unpack the hidden cost of being the bottleneck and why building capacity in your staff isn't just good leadership, it's your only shot at sustainability. We also drop a powerful framework that'll help you stop reacting and start architecting a school that runs itself without you in every room. So if you've ever felt burned out, boxed in, or burdened by being the hero, this episode might just be the permission you were waiting for. I'm Danny Bauer, and this is Better Leaders, Better Schools, the original ruckus cast for visionary leaders who want to do school different, even within a traditional system, so that you create a campus experience worth showing up for. Thanks to ruckus makers just like you, this show ranks in the top 1% of nearly 4 million podcasts worldwide. Today, my guest, like I said, is my buddy Mitch Weathers, founder of Organized Binder and a champion of sustainable school systems that empower teachers and free principals from firefighting. So once again, thanks for listening, and we'll be right back after a quick message from our show sponsors. Want to know how top schools create collaborative learning environments that actually work? ODP Business Solutions has equipped innovative educators for over 3 decades. Visit odpbusiness.com/education and let's make a ruckus together. Over 1 million teachers rely on IXL because it's empowering. It helps them make better decisions with reliable data, and it adapts instruction based on student performance. Get started today at ixl.com/leaders. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Expressability. They are building AI tools that actually make school leadership easier. From secure AI-powered chatbots to time-saving automation, they're helping districts work smarter, not just harder. Want to be your district's hero? Visit k12ability.com. That's k12ability.com. They're getting you with the rent increases.
Time for a home office.
Right on. Home offices are great, right?
They don't work well for me.
Once there was a in one of the big principal Facebook groups, people were like, "Show me a picture of your office," right? So I took a picture. You've been at Ruckus Maker HQ. I think this office is dope, right? Like,
That's
look at me.
nice.
People watching the video, they see the culture tiles. So shout out to Jason and the team over at Gaping Void. They are not an official sponsor. They have not written a check, but they do great work. And they based on your values, they create this stuff. And people are not watching the video, just the audio. It's stuff they hear me say all the time. Are we measuring what matters? 2 sides of every coin. Trust your inner leadership expert. You know, when you get better, everybody wins. So I took a picture and I'm like, this is a really cool office, right? Hopefully it'll inspire some people because in my view, yes, most schools are institutions. They're not going to be what it's like, what I can do in my house. And most school leaders don't realize the autonomy, agency, power they have, right? And so they probably just assume, oh, I can't paint, or I can't put something cool on the wall. I can't have a standing desk. You know, it's all these I can't. When really, most likely, if you drilled into their brain and looked, they put that upper limit challenge there themselves. The system actually didn't say you can't do this. They just thought they couldn't do it. So that was annoying to me because people were like, "Oh yeah, that's from your home office," and I'm like, "Yeah." And you can make your office beautiful too at home or at school if you choose to, right? So anyways.
I have been to Ruckus Maker HQ, and it is a nice office, and you're, fortunate enough to have a bedroom that you converted into an office. It's your own space, but we can too often get caught up. Like my office is an actual it's not at my house, right? So
Yeah.
what we were just talking about, like that investment for me at the stage of life with kids and everything, and not having an extra bedroom based on where I live, it's been really good. But what you did very intentionally was curate the environment. And too often I feel like we get a space and
Yeah.
we just immediately, it's my it's my office, whether that be a principal's office or a classroom even. And you get to work, but you don't take the time to intentionally shape the environment.
You
Hey,
see,
Alba, see? Part of the environment.
she was pawing at the door, wanting to come in.
All right.
She's like, "Oh, that's Uncle Mitch."
Yeah, that's right. She knows me. But there's something to be said for that in whatever your environment is, that when we intentionally shape the environment in ways that leads to your goals, like goal oriented behavior, like is it to be more productive? Is it to be
Yeah.
inspired? Is it
Right.
to, for you, like having your home, your office in your home? I think it's an important thing to say, this feels like my office. I've curated this space to be different than my live space. And I just think there's something to be said for how we intentionally shape our environment, but it's too easy
Right.
to just
Right.
show up to work and just, like, I moved into this office 3 years ago and it's still not. Look behind me.
Yeah.
And I have like my
This
Obama
is
print right there.
okay.
I have stuff that could be, but I get here and I get to work and then I run out of time by the end of the day and I leave. So
Right on.
kudos to you
Yeah.
for shaping the environment.
Well, it's important. And, Mitch and I were just talking. Hello, Ruckus Maker. Welcome to the show. We were just jamming about the backyard and work I'm doing on the house. And, this house, I think at this point, we've had it for 5 years. So you make it your own, right?
Mhm.
But then we started talking about, well, you were talking about your rent. And then I was talking about my office. It all connected. But it makes me think of meteor education too, right? And was it Victoria? Is that who I
Mhm.
met?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yesterday.
I don't in what
She's
she
great.
said, which I loved, it's very much like a point of view. She said environments are not neutral, right?
Mhm.
And so I think school leaders, ruckus makers really need to think about that more because the space that you create, even if you've done nothing to the school, you inherited it and done nothing, that's still a choice. And it's still an environment, that you've created. And so if you agree that environments are not neutral, is that environment promoting or taking away from the campus experience you want to create, the do school
Mhm.
different vibe that you're trying to, right, make a reality? So
Yeah,
anyways,
and I think it's
yeah,
worth noting, like getting clarity around what that goal is. If you are thinking campus-wide environment, you're not going to create anything in any given environment if you don't first have that goal, so that you can intentionally design and iterate over time and then look for evidence of progress towards that goal, whatever it might be. And again, we can just inherit and then just show up and get to work. But to step back and be thoughtful or intentional about that's important. But I love what
yes,
Victoria said and what Meteor is doing for that, considering the really the furniture, the internal environment in a
mm,
classroom or in a district or in a school. They're pretty unique.
yeah. I think we'll
Definitely
get
doing
her
school different over there.
for sure. We'll get her on the show and dig into like environment and design. I think that would be a good one.
Yeah.
It's
Thought
sort of my
provoking.
dream. So this is a pitch to Victoria because I know we're going to send her this episode. So Victoria,
She's
right?
already listening.
I know. No, I hope she's watching. But the ideal scenario for me, I mean, I think it'd be cool if we partnered together. We'll definitely have her on. She could talk design environment. But I would love to visit some of the schools that they helped make a reality and
Mhm.
and have a film crew. You know what I mean? Like really do it up, do
Really
it
see it.
nice
Yep.
and basically give ruckus makers who love this show a virtual tour so they can dream of what's possible, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe they work with a meteor, maybe they go work somewhere else. But the point is that they're dreaming bigger about what's possible, and
Yeah,
I think that'd be a
for
huge
sure.
win. So,
Yeah, I
Victoria, since
agree.
you're watching, right, let's make that happen. And
And if you're only
yeah,
listening, that's okay too.
yeah, it's you get a B plus, B minus, maybe
Yeah, it's
C
passing.
plus. It's falling quickly. All right, well, hey, let's jump into some trends.
Yeah, that
You
sounds
know,
fun.
you wrote jobs of the future. And so
Yeah.
this is your trend. What do you mean, Mitch?
I'm kind of making myself a student of this and trying to learn what I can. But you've heard that,
Okay.
batted around this idea that, you know, things are evolving so rapidly with technology and then with AI and generative
Yeah.
AI and right that we don't even know, we can't even conceive of the jobs of the future. Like they're just
Mm,
not created yet. They don't exist yet. There's no need for them to exist yet. And obviously, I'm very passionate about and believe strongly in equipping students with executive functioning skills. And I'm just curious, I'll ask you the question, if we don't know what the jobs of the future are, then
mm,
what is it that we really should be teaching our students, our young people, in kind of goal oriented, career focused pathways or behaviors that, you know, equipping them for jobs of the future? And of course, that could be very much like a career technical ed pathway where I'm really interested in this career and I want to be an engineer or whatever this. But I'm more and more convinced that what we really need to equip our students with is transferable knowledge and transferable skills, right? Transferable competencies, so that if I am, in fact, if that's true, if all these jobs start to come about that we've never dreamed of, well, if I have that kind of dexterity in my knowledge and what I've learned, then I'm going to be better suited or ready for that evolving job market. And I just think it's fascinating that we've we haven't changed a whole lot
mm-hmm.
in education. And I'm not here to say that all of our content and our standards and all that are pointless. There's no question that's not the case. We need knowledge and prior knowledge to build on new knowledge. But how are we meaningfully and intentionally equipping students for jobs of the future?
Yeah. Well, shout out to our, mutual friend Julie. She talks about learning that transfer. So that's kind of in the
That's a
name,
book to
right?
read.
Yeah,
Julie
yeah, yeah.
Stern. Everybody
Yeah.
pick that up.
She's great. And I think, what you're talking about, it makes me just want to embrace the idea of sort of being fluid, open, curious, empathetic, right? Less rigid, I think when things break, it's because they're brittle and they're holding on to sort of like binary ends of a continuum, right or wrong, black and white, so on and so forth. And with school, that's something I riff on, right? I mean, are we preparing kids for the future or the past?
Right.
So I think there's obviously classics and fundamentals and things that we want to teach and not lose that are a part of our human experience, and a lot of roles that were pretty solid, right? Like lawyer, you know what I mean? You can do draft contracts and all this kind of stuff just using AI these days, and then have
Mhm.
a lawyer polish it up, right? And
Right.
so like billable hours and like, knowledge work to some extent is kind of, I don't
It's
want to,
changing. It's
it's changing,
changing.
right?
Hmm.
So in, doctors, things that we, yeah, put so much time into learning how to be and craft and get those degrees. It's just like, it's totally evolving and changing. And so I think again, just like, I don't know if I don't have a hard answer for you. It's an openness, it's a
Yeah.
curiosity, it's a willingness to pivot and do things a bit different, doing school different. I'd be interested, and I should probably reach out to some CEOs and just maybe see if they would like to riff on what they're looking for in the workforce, right?
Hmm.
Because
Well,
I know I've read reports that, for example, man, a year ago, Hannah Grady Williams over at the Skills, right? She does that AI stuff with students, and like they might produce a kids book and get it published on Amazon within a day, right? Leveraging AI tools, and it's really pretty cool. And then students are able to say, I'm a published author like 24 hours later. That's really fascinating if you
interesting.
think about
Yeah.
it.
Took me a little bit
Um,
longer than that.
yeah, I know. Perfectionist, maybe. I don't know. But you're also not writing it entirely with AI. So there's a lot of good things, you're putting original work in. But my point is she came on the show. I mean, this is over a year ago, and she's talking about the Microsoft/LinkedIn like future of work report. They do stuff like that.
Right.
And the big overarching idea was that CEOs, business owners were saying basically, if you don't have AI skills in the job market, like now, a year
Hmm.
ago, right? Not today. where
Right.
it's even more prevalent, but they were saying, "Oh, we're not going to hire you," right? And then the main thing was given two candidates, right? Somebody who's an expert in executive functions versus a novice, but with AI skills. They were going with the novice, right?
Sure.
Who knew how
Sure.
to leverage AI. So I want to add one more point because now progress like a year later, and you're seeing different founders and CEOs of like Shopify, for example, right? And he had the founder, I don't know the guy's name, but I saw on social media like a leaked memo, and essentially he was telling all his workers go to AI first, right? And the point was like it's a tool, it's here, leverage it, it'll help you be more efficient, more creative. Don't go for it to problem solve everything, but turn to it like this is our distinct advantage, right?
Right.
And he said we're going to be an AI first company. And I think a lot of schools, or excuse me, a lot of businesses will be shifting that way. So how are schools also doing that shift so that, to answer your question, we are preparing kids for the future. So,
Right. And I think AI and dexterity around using and utilizing the tools, it's almost like with young people, how are they not going to develop
mhm,
that? But I think you're right with leaning into schools. But the key, what stuck out to me, what the CEO said was, I'd rather go with a novice who has some AI skills, because with a novice, they want to train and shape those individuals within their ecosystems and what they
mhm,
want them to do. And so what again comes back to what's the base that allows me to be a novice that can enter that space in a job that doesn't yet exist and be trained or learn it or whatever it might be. And I
mhm.
just fundamentally believe that, you know, goal setting behaviors and planning and time management and organizational skills and self-regulation, these are all those competencies, these executive functions
Yeah,
that allow for that transfer. Are there specific skill sets like you're mentioning with AI? Of course. But it's just an interesting conversation. Like, what does that well-rounded young professional look like as they're stepping
yeah.
into an evolving workforce?
Well, here's an interesting opportunity, I think. So I don't know. What's your daughter like? Your two daughters are probably the same generation, right? What's that generation?
We just had a big family argument about that the other day. Like, no, they're actually not. I
Oh, really?
think
Okay.
I have almost 16 and 12. At least they were claiming the young one is Generation Alpha, which would make sense because she's a total alpha and all of
Yeah,
her
I want to
friends
be
are.
that. Yep.
And the 16-year-old, I thought that they were Generation App, and that offended her. But most things do these days. I forget what we
Being 16,
landed
huh?
on, but they were trying to make fun of me for being part of the greatest generation of all time, Generation X. And I'm like right in the middle of it. And I was like claiming it. So
Yeah.
anyway, what's your point? I'm getting off track here.
Uh, so I don't know. I don't remember what generation. It's one of the younger ones. My wife sent me a reel, and there were some experienced adults, let's say, right, like us, right, discussing younger people. And the interesting thing is they were talking about how just evolved they are in the sense that they care about these societal issues. They're drinking less. Less STDs and pregnancies, less rates of sex, like all this kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
Smoking less, like all the things, like sort of the vices of society, they're not a part of. And so one of the narratives was like, well, they're more evolved, right? And they care about their own health and wellness and this kind of stuff, which might be kind of true. So I don't want to take anything away from them there. But we're all kind of human, and we do things at times that aren't really great for us. And so the insight that I thought was really interesting was, oh, you're seeing the lower levels of alcohol consumption or STDs and these kind of things. It's because they're always alone at home on their device, right?
Hmm.
And I found
It's
that like,
interesting.
kind of like an epiphany, because I do hear that about, younger people and, teachers complaining, oh, they don't know how to talk in class. Like even my wife who teaches college level kids,
Oh, she's seeing it
and
for sure.
even the
Again.
seniors, right, who have come through the pandemic and this kind of stuff. And she says, when I tell them to close their computers and to discuss, right, they immediately open the laptops back up. And I'm like, no, like seriously, just talk to each other, close the devices. And they like want to revolt and like kind of freak out about it. It's actually something she's not fighting anymore within the class because it's just so difficult to request, look
Wow.
somebody in the eye, have a conversation. All right. So that's
But
the
see,
context.
that's one of those skills. I mean, that's going to be, I think, a
Yes.
differentiator in some way, depending on what you're doing. That's not to say that,
Yeah.
it's the only thing, but it's going to stand out when a young person can have a conversation and look you in the eye. Like this
Yeah.
human side of being human can't be replaced.
Imagine that being human is an edge. So, and I'm getting to my point. So some of these younger people are a bit, let's just say, weird or strange because they're always alone. They don't have the same developed social skills because their social life is only through devices and apps and social media, right? And we know like social media, the way it messes with your brain and the way that kids think about themselves, right? And self-esteem,
Sure.
like it's done horrible, horrible stuff to kids. I'm sure to adults as well. So now I think the opportunity with AI that helps us potentially be more efficient, right? The opportunity and the risk. The risk is that school is then going to say, oh, we can do all this stuff more efficiently and breeze through these things and add more to the plate of teachers and students. But the opportunity is, what if you can, because you're leveraging AI, have some really intense education module learning time, like deep work, right? In the morning, let's just say. And then in the afternoon, you go do human stuff, whether that's enjoying nature, going out for a hike like we do. And people say, wow, those are two really attractive guys in red hats and beards. They're adorable.
Yeah.
And to which we
Catch the last
say,
episode
if you don't know
if
that
you want to
story,
know what Danny's talking
it's
about.
legendary.
We
It's
could tell that
classic.
story again if you want.
No, no, go watch the other episode. We're not going to tell it ever again. So shoot, I got myself off track.
No, you're saying like deep work in the morning and human
Right.
work in
So
the
so
afternoon.
the
That's
hikes,
interesting.
I mean, that's nice. But
Whatever
the
that
other
means.
thing
Yeah.
is, what if you go clean up the creek? What if you go like do some sort of service? What if you go, since there is sort of an epidemic of loneliness and for sure with aging adults, what if you go to a nursing home and volunteer? Because you've
Mhm.
actually done the learning and we can prove that you've actually learned, right? And have the achievement. And now for the afternoon, you're going to go do human stuff and make society better. Now that seems an interesting model of a future school. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, what do you think of that?
I love that. I mean, you know
I think
me.
I've predicted the
My,
future. Can we
you
agree?
did. Well, and it'd be interesting, I think, how that quote unquote human time in the afternoon started influencing the rigor of the morning time.
Right.
Right. I think
For sure.
especially for our youngest students, the idea of technology and screens in the classroom as a main modality, I think is problematic. I think kids need to be outside. I think, you know, technology is one tool to be used in the progress towards and goal of education. But that's
Yeah.
interesting. It is interesting. It's interesting times to be in the classroom. I think engagement would be significantly increased in a model like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I haven't recorded the episode yet, but I had a viral post about teaching in AI future education on
yeah.
LinkedIn. Somebody who commented on that, they were mentioning, and I'm going to have him on the show. He's somewhere in the UK, but I think he condensed like a year's worth of learning into like 3 months. Or their tool proved the students had the same outcomes in a ridiculously short amount of time that would take a full day of instruction for a year. And I think what
Yeah.
he said, don't quote me on it yet because we haven't recorded, but it was like 3 months and like a dose of the curriculum. Let's say 90 minutes every morning, right?
Right.
So imagine a place where students could get a year's worth of learning in 90 minutes over 3 months. Again, so then now that opens up and it helps you and challenges you to think, what is the human experience, right? What do we want, kids to learn to be and this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there if the bureaucracy in the system doesn't screw it up by just adding a bunch of meaningless things to check off a list.
Well, I'll be curious to tune into that episode, because if, part of that conversation, or kind of the foundation for it, is really rooted in the science of learning. And as that community, their commitment to say, like, why are we doing anything that's not proven, like rooted in research, evidence-based. This is how we know how the brain learns. And the brain does not learn the things we've done historically, long lectures, rereading your notes as a way to review. It's been proven, like the jury's not out on this one. We can make strategic adjustments and amplify learning and success. And I'm curious to know, like, if that tool has somehow distilled not only the concepts, or this, let's just call them standards that we're learning, but also root the exposures in science of learning, you'll have outcomes. There's no question about it.
No question.
So I'm eager to tune into that one. That's interesting.
Right on. Yeah.
What if we went to school 3 months out of the year and we had summer
9 months?
The other months.
Oh, that's interesting
The other
too.
9
We should do a
months.
show on that. Yeah, that'd be fun. Let's invite some like interesting people that have great ideas, and everybody talk about what would we do if we had school 3 months and summer 9 months, right? And still make it like meaningful, right? Like not just you're at the pool.
It's not just unscripted time, because
Yeah. Cool. I think we talked a lot about jobs of the future. Do you want to touch on rooted before ready?
No, I listed that in our kind of ongoing list there. I'm going to do the hard work of speaking at a conference in Hawaii next month. Somebody has to do it, right? And so I'll be over there, and I'm really excited for this talk because it's looking at executive functions as preparation for more rigorous cognitive activities, including jobs of the future. So it's kind of the same, I think, but getting grounded or rooted, right? Before we go on. So it's an interesting opportunity for me to speak, because it's actually at an education technology conference, and I'll be talking about analog technologies and stirring that.
It's still technology though, right?
It is. It's again, it's back to that goal-oriented behavior we talked about, like with environment and shaping that environment. It's just so important that as educators, we step back and go, like, what's the goal? And I love to be in a ed tech environment and just kind of get people thinking differently, because I can hold up an organized binder and be like, this is an education technology to develop executive functioning skills. And I'm not being like, facetious. It actually is.
I've got my, little notepad
but
here.
That's in book 1, that's the argument I make, is these skills, they're not taught, they're learned when I see them modeled and I get practice doing them, right? The knowing is in the doing. So it'll be fun. It'll just be an interesting thing, getting grounded, getting that foundation, but it kind of, before I make that transition. So it kind of feeds into that jobs of the future, I think. So we can skip over that one.
Okay, skip. It wasn't a good idea anyways.
Sure. Well, I'll let you know how it goes.
No, I'm just messing with you. All right. Half of the reason, I just enjoy spending time with you, right? Having these discussions. And I also just like messing with you and knowing I'm going to put out my messing with you as content out there, right? So, because I think I said a few things the last episode that you were like, oof, I don't know if I want to go there, but,
I kind of knew what I was stepping into, so, but,
Mitch, I see this as an exploration of your personal growth, right?
Thank you.
Over however long you continue to show up. Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a break here. We'll get a message in from the sponsors. When we come back, I'd love to talk about sort of like boundaries or the lack of boundaries in education. So that might be fun.
Oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
Every school leader wants to spend more time on real leadership, not resetting passwords, answering the same questions, or getting buried in admin tasks. That's where expressibility comes in. They're building secure AI-powered tools that actually work in schools, from privacy-scrubbed chatbots to automations that lift the daily load on your team. They move fast. They care about data safety, and they've got a track record of helping districts work smarter, not harder. If your staff is overloaded or your systems are stuck in 2008, Expressibility can help. Visit K12ability.com and start turning busy work to breakthrough. That's K12ability.com. ODP Business Solutions, formerly Office Depot Business Solutions Division, has been a trusted partner for schools in 30 years. At ODP Business Solutions, we're by your side to meet your evolving education needs. Here's the thing about creating remarkable learning spaces. You need a partner who gets it. Someone who understands that transforming education isn't just about swapping whiteboards for smartboards. It's about reimagining what's possible. That's why innovative school leaders trust ODP Business Solutions. We don't just deliver supplies, we help you design dynamic learning spaces that make students actually excited to show up. From tech integration that brings lessons to life to flexible furniture that transforms any space into a collaboration zone, to sustainable solutions that teach by example, we've got everything you need to do school different. And the best part, you can get it all from a single supplier. This helps you simplify ordering and streamline budgeting while staying compliant with easy access to cooperative contracts. However you want to advance, ODP Business Solutions has 30 years of experience helping districts just like yours get ahead. Visit odpbusiness.com/education to learn more. Something that drove me nuts as a ruckus maker was hearing teachers say, I taught it, they should have learned it. But really, some teachers just don't know how to reteach so that all kids get it. That's where IXL comes in. IXL's diagnostic automatically identifies knowledge gaps for teachers and provides them with a personalized growth plan for each individual student. Teachers can step into the classroom every day knowing exactly what their students know and what they don't know. IXL's adaptive platform makes differentiating instruction easy. As students learn, IXL adjusts to the right level of difficulty for each individual. Close knowledge gaps and accelerate learning at IXL. Get started today at ixl.com/leaders. All right, and it's Danny and Mitch. We were talking jobs of the future and AI and all sorts of really interesting things in the first half. And the trend that I wanted to talk about is just sort of like the tension of having boundaries and being an educator, right? Because I know that a lot of teachers get burnt out. I know that a lot of school leaders we support in the mastermind, that kind of thing, right? They can certainly at times be drained. That's a feather in my cap, something I'm really proud of. They say, we come to mastermind depleted, we leave energized, and so that's a real nice result that we deliver consistently. But it's something we hear a lot, just about sort of boundaries. So I want to riff on that with you. So why do you think it's so tough in education to like actually create and then honor those boundaries?
I think there's multiple reasons for it, but there seems to be this unhealthy culture in education that,
Tell me more.
right? And I've heard you riff on this and speak to it over the years, like this idea, like it's a badge of honor if I'm
To
living
be busy.
completely out of balance. Like I'm either working, and I'll just speak from my context as a teacher, right? Because I never was in school leadership, but even in that, in the classroom, there'd be teachers who were just not healthy, working way too many hours, not eating all day. Exercising only happened in the summer. Like I had colleagues that would gain, significant weight throughout the year and then come back in the fall and they had dropped it all because they went on a biking trip or backpacking, or they found some balance in their life. And for whatever reason, some of those teachers were like some of the most dynamic, best, quote unquote teachers on campus. So I think there's a culture problem for sure. And there's
Starts
also
at the top too.
So that's definitely starts at the top, and what's modeled that we see, pushing back a little bit. Should the principal be the first person on campus and the last person to leave every
I
day?
hate that.
I don't
I
think so.
reject it. I reject it.
Well,
That's
it's just like
such
an
terrible
impossible
advice.
job to begin with, and now I need to not see my family.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that kind of.
It's the
So I think
1950s, man. It's like, listen, Sonny boy, hey, Mitch, I'm going to be the first one in and the last one out. You see?
right. But you know what I mean? But if it's a culture conversation, where are our values? Back to like, what are the goals of this organization? But more importantly, I think there's something that feeds that's a really positive attribute, because every educator I've ever met, myself, you included, went into this to make a difference in the world. For whatever reason, we're wired in a way that, sure, we need to make money and we got to pay our mortgage and feed our families and all this stuff. But what really feels is the driving force is this: I want to leave my little dent in the world. I want to leave it a better place than when I came into it. And if you are wired that way, you can get into a cycle very quickly where it's endless work. So how do you set those boundaries for sustainability in the long run and stay passionate about this work and not kill yourself in the process of doing it, or hurt or damage relationships, or not see your kids, or not actually all those boundaries? I think it's kind of a concoction. It's not just one thing. I think our desire to make a difference can lead us in ways that we can turn around back. Oh my gosh, I'm sleeping 6 hours or 4 hours a night because I'm up grading and doing all that, So those are just two initial thoughts around the boundaries, culture, and then this passion.
Yeah. You didn't like my 1950s voice. It didn't seem like. Normally I get a laugh.
That's pretty good. Got a
It
little
was?
Chicago in there. I laughed.
Oh, okay. It wasn't. Maybe I was just feeling it wasn't loud enough or something. But I was like, I thought I didn't land as well. I was like, okay, everything you said is right, and it's tough. So I think people you got to investigate. Like, I say ruckus makers reject the premise. Well, first you need to know what the premise is you're accepting, right? Before you can reject it. And one of the things to think about is like, can I only make a difference if I'm like always on call? Or always available on campus. And so these are some of the things to start making up. And you might decide, yes, right?
Right.
And,
but it's being deliberate about what you're saying yes to. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I did that as a teacher early on, I was like, not that I'm an expert, but I'm not sure this homework, for example, the amount of time I was spending on homework. And then I stopped and was like, I'm not sure this is actually helping anybody learn anything, and it's certainly not a formative feedback for me. I'm not getting anything authentic that I can rely on.
Yeah.
So why am I doing all this? Not to say I can't give homework, but now I know definitively in most cases, not always, but this whole idea of assigning a homework assignment, kids supposedly go and do it. You have no control. It's completely outside of your sphere of influence. You collect it all and then wait till that night to spend an hour or two grading all of it, to give them back the next day, hoping they look at the feedback. But we're a day or two behind. Like, there's so many questions about it, but it's that same thing. Like, what is the premise? What are we doing? Too often in education, we just do what was done to us.
100%.
That's how we do school. And it's like, well, let's pump the brakes on that and think through. And what am I going to say yes to? What am I going to no? And through the lens of setting boundaries,
Right.
Huge. But you have to be a ruckus maker to be bold enough to do some of those
say no.
things. Yeah.
I think you got to be a ruckus maker to honor the boundaries. But, what I wanted to add was, so Tucker Smith, my mentor teacher, sees me. He's 6th grade, different team, 6th grade social studies. I'm 6th grade language arts and reading. I must have just looked ragged. Danny, what's going on? Right. And I said, I'm always grading papers and assignments, and like I literally have no time for anything anymore. He's like, are you grading everything kids do in your class, right? Homework, but also the warm-ups, the exit.
Everything.
I was giving feedback, thoughtful feedback on everything that if a student put pen to paper, I gave feedback to it, at least within the first 90 days of my first year teaching. And he's like, don't do that. And it was great advice, but it was one of those things I just didn't know any better. And it was making life, really, really tough. You
That's that
mentioned,
wanting to do the best job you can, change the world.
yeah,
But what if you did
yeah,
all
this
of that?
comment might change a young Mitch's life
Right.
if
I
he
mean, you're
just reads
trying
it,
to
takes
help
it to
you
heart.
develop as a learner, as a reader, as a writer, right?
Yeah.
But what if you kept that and you just, like your term, lightning strike?
Mm,
That feedback's gonna be in this one place. For me, it was the
mm,
learning log, right? That
mm-hmm,
how we
mm-hmm.
conclude every day. I want you to write to me. I don't care if you're right or wrong. Just talk to me about where this is all
Yeah.
landing. And I'm gonna write back to you here. And I'm gonna hand it back to you. And I'm only gonna collect it once a week because I can't do it every day.
Mm,
And I'm gonna give it to you back on Monday.
mm,
And I'm going to make sure you read the feedback. If you can just focus all that into one lightning strike,
mm-hmm,
it's transformative, because that conversation, that formative piece you're talking about, is so important, but you can't
mm-hmm.
spread it across everything. It just doesn't, it's just not a sustainable practice. But I cut you off there. What were you going to say?
Well, and it's happening in the classroom. It's just, audible probably, right? Not necessarily like you, the teacher writing it. But yeah, the point I wanted to make, I remember coaching, I don't remember which leader I was coaching, but they said I have a teacher, like they're here all the time. And it sometimes makes me feel like I need to be on campus because I shut down the school and da da da. And like they really need to leave. Like they can't be here all the time. What do I do? And it was really like interesting that this was a problem, a challenge that a leader wanted to unpack with me. And it gets to this point of like always being on, always on campus. So God bless the teacher that they love being at school and obviously giving it their all. And so my solution for them was, do they have the code to the alarm? And they're like, no. So I said, okay, set the alarm, go on the PA, say the cops will be here in 3 minutes when the alarm goes off if you're still on campus. And that was the solution. Because I've done that to a teacher before. When they, hey, you need to go home, right? And you try
Right.
to be compassionate and gentle about it, and you don't know what's going on under the surface, but
Exactly.
it's
Right.
also not for them to always be at school. So there's got to be some boundaries. And sometimes as a leader, you got to help others enforce, their boundaries too. So yeah, just a
Mhm.
little anecdote, I wanted to share. All right. Question, Mitch. What do you think of this as a website? Boundary setting blueprint. Do you like that title?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just bought it, and for all the ruckus makers, yeah, I'm processing it right now. I wanted to check with you first. So by the time people are watching this or listening, you can go to boundariessettingblueprint.com, and what I've got for you is a 5-day email education course that is going to go through the mistakes that we make with boundaries. So mistake one, having open door policies and why that'll make you more of a parent to your students than your own children. Mistake two, not advocating for yourself and why you won't accomplish what matters most to you. Mistake three, working in isolation and why this leads to your team talking behind your back. Mistake four, reinventing the wheel each year, why this makes you feel like you're always behind. And mistake five, working harder to solve more problems and why this turns you into a busybody instead of a leader. So, Ruckus Maker, if you can resonate with any of those mistakes, go to boundarysettingblueprint.com and you can get a solution, right? We can eliminate those mistakes
Cool.
completely free.
Very
Mitch and
cool.
Danny's gift to you, which is an email course. So cool. That's cool, isn't it? The
That is
boundary
cool.
setting blueprint. So
Nice.
it's a new thing I was working on. And shout out to Dalen, somebody behind the scenes, Ruckus Maker team, that helped me create this too. So yeah, big help
Very
there.
cool.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty good on boundaries. The last thing I have to say is just to really like gently encourage the Ruckus Maker checking out this show. Often we kind of complain like the district is doing so much and not taking care of me and da da da, but it's called self-care. It's not called district care, right? And so I just want to empower whoever's watching, listening, like you can take care of yourself, right? Like that's within your scope of things you control. And Mitch and I, right? We just want you to do that. So cool.
Absolutely.
Anything else on boundaries?
No, I want to echo that it can, depending on where you are, it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But just starting with one little thing, and if it's boundaries, just even around health or family life, or like figuring out one little thing and realize you have the freedom to make those decisions, and it doesn't mean you're going to do a bad job elsewhere. And
Yeah.
wrapping it all up, there may be a really interesting kind of reflective process for a school leader or teacher to consider ways to increase efficiencies and carve out more time. Unfortunately, when we incorporate new technologies typically and we get more efficient, we just start doing more.
Right.
That's kind
Yeah.
of the human nature of it all. So trying to set those boundaries and increase some efficiencies so that you have that time
Right.
for
Right.
yourself is
Right on.
possible.
Cool. 40 minutes deep, I think, covering 2 issues. Are you feeling good about today's
I'm
episode?
feeling good. Yeah.
All right.
I like discussing current trends
Yeah. You
with
know,
you.
hopefully, audience, tell us if you like it or not. We've been getting positive feedback so far and
Yeah.
non-negative. So yeah, let us know. We show for you. I think for future shows, we'll probably touch on AI again. I'm sure that'll be a reoccurring topic because I want to get into that LinkedIn post that took off and why.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
listeners will like that. And then there's a couple other things we were talking about, teaching hacks, right? Like the one thing that's made the most difference for you. So we could, unpack that as a teacher, and I'll do school administrator, and maybe what's the most absurd question or scenario, you've experienced on a campus. So those are future coming shows. If you have another idea, reach out to us. I know I'm Hey Danny Bauer on X, Danny at betterleadersbetterschools.com or Danny at ruckusmakers.news. You're Mitch at organizedbinder.com. What are you on X? I know you don't check that often, but
At Organized Binder. All
at
one word.
Organized Binder. So
Mhm.
what do you think of this URL? Last thing I'll ask, I guess, adorableredhats.com, because we can create a hello at adorableredhats.com email. That would come. That's available, by the way. It's only $11 a year.
Imagine that. Adorableredhats.com just rolls right off the tongue.
But
If
here's
you
the
end
thing.
up purchasing that URL, we'll just put a picture of us in our red hats up there.
Well, I'm totally thinking of doing that, one, because it's hilarious. But two, we could have an email. And then for this specific show, people can write in hello at adorableredhats.com. Or even better, you two are adorable wearing your red hats at adorableredhats. That's kind of long. But,
That is all.
I live for the
Figure out
joke.
an acronym there.
Yeah, for sure. I'd probably just hello. Let's just go, or hey at adorableredhats.com. Do you want to do that? Should I buy it? It's $11. Is it worth it as a joke?
Sure. If it's
Okay.
your $11.
Halvesies?
Home office guys? No way.
No? Man, you drive a tough bargain. I got $11 though, and it's worth it to me. So
Alright.
sold. We will update the
Oh,
audience
boy.
if we have an email. So don't email there yet. I'm confident by the next time we record, we'll have an email there.
Okay.
Yeah. You still glad
That's
you're
good.
doing this?
I am. Loving it.
Awesome.
Adorableredhats.com.
.com. Well, I own it. You're
Should
not
go out
throwing
the
in.
.edu on that one.
If this blows up and turns into a gazillion-dollar business, you're out because you didn't put in on the website.
You heard it. You heard it right here, everybody.
This is
I
how
got cut out before we
no,
got going.
You had an opportunity to go halvesies and you said no.
Yeah.
See where cheap gets you. Okay. All right. That's the show. Hey, Ruckus Makers. Thanks again for pressing play. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. And before you go, if today's episode shifted something in you so that you want to do school different, or maybe you have a new idea about how to reimagine education on your campus, then check out My Principal Coach. It's your AI-powered leadership mentor. It's trained on 10 years of mastermind and private coaching experience that I've had. It's like having a world-class ruckus maker mentor in your pocket 24/7. You can start your free 7-day trial at myprincipalcoach.com.